Now that we know the Jaguar XFR inside out, we straight piped it, tried to drift it, drove 1,200 miles from England to Spain and explored two incredible undiscovered driving roads. It's time for the real test. Let's see if this car really is as great as it looks. The Jaguar XFR was first introduced in 2007 as a competitor to the BMW M5. It was priced fairly similarly to the M5, around £60,000, but you can pick up quite a nice one today for around 11 grand. With 503 horsepower and 625 newton meters of torque, it was a serious competitor as well. Coming in at a smidge under 1,900 kilos, it gives it a power to weight ratio of 266 horsepower per tonne. The initial impressions of the interior are that it's quite nice, it's comfortable, fairly luxurious, but what I would say is that I rolled around in a Jaguar XF 3-litre diesel a couple of years ago and it doesn't feel distinctly different to me. It doesn't feel, I mean, it's got like the nice R badges on the seat, there's a little R badge over there, but I can't really see much difference. So it would have been nice if it was a little more distinguished, in my opinion. One thing I don't really like about the car is the way the seats hug you, or more to the point, how they don't hug you. I took a Jaguar XF on a track day a few years ago at Anglesey in Wales because I had to learn the circuit, and I had my teammate Mark at the time in the car in the passenger seat, and we were both in hysterics as we went around the track because we were literally falling out of the seats where the car's got quite a lot of grip and it handles really well. You can really throw it around, but the seats just don't match up to your expectations in terms of a performance car. For example, in a Alfa Giulia Quadrifoglio that we had recently and we reviewed on the channel, you were kind of in the seat, you were just glued to the car, whereas with this, with the XFR, it feels like just more of a luxurious kind of sofa type seat, or a lounger, where you kind of like, it's nice and comfortable, it's good on the motorway, but as soon as you get into a corner with any kind of enthusiasm, you just kind of like, you're falling about like this, and doesn't really work for a performance car, in my opinion. Another bugbear of mine with this car is the fuel tank, and specifically the size of the fuel tank. It's a 60-litre tank, whereas really it needs to be 80 or 90 litres for a car with a V8 supercharged 5-litre engine. It's just not big enough. I mean, Jaguar Land Rover are not really renowned for building fuel economic engines. They're great engines, they tend to be a tiny bit on the heavy side, but extremely reliable, the V8s, the petrol V8s, and lovely torque curve, you know, just a really nice engine, but they are not really fuel efficient, to be honest. So it would have been great if they'd put a bigger fuel tank in the car, because it's kind of annoying when you when you're driving in a spirited way and you have to stop every 200 or 250 miles for fuel on a long journey. It gets a bit old, to be honest. The other thing, I think I've mentioned this before and I don't want to keep banging on about it, but the car feels just a little bit too heavy. You kind of feel the weight in everything you're doing, in the braking, in the cornering, not so much in the acceleration, to be fair, because it's got loads of grunt, but it just feels like it could do with being a little bit lighter. And I actually thought, when I first got this car, I thought it was an aluminium monocoque. Turns out the original generation of the Jaguar XJF is actually a steel chassis with a few aluminium bits on it, for example the bonnet. Jaguar wanted to make it a fully aluminium car when it was new, but due to, I guess, budgetary constraints at the time, they adopted a different platform instead and put, as I said, put a few aluminium bits on it. But I suspect that's why it's heavy, and in fact the updated, or the generation 2, the X260 model, this is an X250, hope I got that model number right, is fully aluminium, and it's about 150 kilos lighter, which is what it feels like this car should be. And actually that weight saving on the Gen 2 car increases the horsepower per tonne from 266 brake horsepower per tonne to 288. quite a significant difference. But in general, the impressions are good. It's nice, it's comfortable, ergonomically quite good, so initial impressions good. In terms of general performance, the car is quick, but rather than me just telling you about the performance, why don't you feel it for yourself? Let's give it some stick. So on to the Adam Drive score out of 10, where we talk about fun, comfort, handling, and most importantly, how the car makes you feel. For fun, despite what I said about being a little bit unmoved by the car, it is definitely a fun car if you hustle it. The handling's great, you know, the chassis balance is really nice. Everything does feel a little bit numb, and the car is, for me, a little bit too understated and not distinguished enough from the base XF model. Having said that, it is still quite fun, and it's nice to know you've got that ridiculous supercharged 5-litre V8 up front. So, to give the car a fair hearing, I would say 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 for fun. For comfort, kind of depends really. On a racetrack, it's not that comfortable because you're like swishing around all over the place, and if you're doing some sort of spirited driving on a nice country road or on a mountain road, as we've just done recently, subscribe to see that, you know, it's kind of, you do start to, well, if you're a little getting on a bit like me, or, you know, you got back issues, it wouldn't be comfortable because, you know, it starts to work your lower back a bit too much when you're trying to brace yourself. But most people are not going to drive the car like that, let's face it. So, you know, it is pretty comfortable. Yeah, it's certainly not uncomfortable. I just drove down to Spain in it, which was, I think, 1,200 miles, and no issues. So, credit where credit's due. 8 out of 10 for comfort. In terms of handling, I've touched on it before. Jaguar have made a great handling car. It's possibly a little bit boaty, but, you know, that's primarily because it's too heavy. And I suspect the newer Generation 2 from 2015 is probably, it probably solves all of that. But you know, it's a good handling car. I would give it an 8.5 out of 10 for handling. But most crucially, how the car makes you feel. I really hate to say this, and I know some people are going to be angry with me about it, but despite its extreme power and speed, it's just a little bit boring. It just leaves me unmoved. I like the car, but it doesn't excite me. So, based on that, I'm afraid 6.5, I'm not sure. Because I do actually like the car. It's just that I feel like it should make you feel alive more than it does. You know, like well, I don't know if you do know, but for me, that car is a Mercedes C63S, and to a lesser extent, the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. It kind of makes you feel, it gets you going, whereas this car, I don't know, it just doesn't quite do it. It just feels like a normal XF with a great engine, muted then by sound. So I think it's got to be a 6 out of 10. I hate to say it, I like the car, but it is what it is. Bringing the total to. So should you buy one? Well, for me, the car just doesn't feel special enough. I can appreciate its performance, which is certainly more than adequate, but it's just not that exciting. And I don't know, it feels kind of like a normal Jaguar XF with a great big special engine thrown in, and then kind of dampened down with the, you know, things like the exhaust is just not quite loud enough. We straight piped this car, there's another video on that, and it sounded absolutely insane. It sounded awesome. I'm not saying I would want the car to be that ridiculous day to day, but I feel like Jaguar could have spent just a little bit more time tweaking it so that it kind of represents what it actually is, which is like a crazy powerful super saloon. But it doesn't feel like a super saloon to drive. It feels kind of more like a luxury waftmobile, and I don't think that's what the car is, or should be. Don't get me wrong, I do like the car a lot. I just don't love it. I would have liked to give the Jaguar XFR a better review, and who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's all in my mind that the car doesn't, you know, really grab you that much. Maybe it would for you. I'd like to know your opinions in the comments. If you've owned one, let me know what you think. But until next time, oh, by the way, thanks for getting us over 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully by the time you're seeing this, it will be significantly more than that. Really do appreciate everybody who's subscribed. And while I've been in Spain, I've been doing some rather fun things with this car, including finding what's possibly the most or the best undiscovered driving road in Europe. So make sure you subscribe if you're not. See you soon.